you just briefly touched on it there a bit about the link between psychology and, physical well-being, physical health. And for a long time, there's been a disconnect between the two. I guess, ironically, in my own experience and yours too, going to UNSW, you had the health sciences building and then the psychology building on the complete opposite ends of the court there, really. And, when we look at things now, very much they should have been almost integrated as a whole. That misconception that mental illness is not a physical disease. We now understand there's a direct link between the two, and subsequently it'll impact your physical health as well. So this episode is titled "Exercise is a Human Right," and we're going to talk a lot about, what inequities exist, some of the barriers to being more physically active, and how improving your mental well-being can, directly improve your physical well-being.
It's all totally linked, isn't it? Look, it's and that's been the basis of our work for a long time. I guess to break it down, if we think about people living with mental illness, whether that's post-traumatic stress disorder or schizophrenia or depression, we know that people are less likely to engage in physical activity. We also know that less physical activity is linked with poor mental health. So there's kind of this cycle there. And for me, it's thinking about, we know that when we get the opportunity to move our body and to participate in some form of physical activity, it can help us to feel better. That's the basis of all of our work. It's very, very simple. But what we know is that the people that are most disadvantaged or excluded from society, and that includes people living with mental illness, are often the least likely to have access to supportive environments, safe environments, free, accessible environments, whereby they can participate and achieve those benefits that the rest of us can enjoy. And so what I'm talking about there is some of the barriers that we don't necessarily consider, things like having access to shoes or having access to safe footpaths, or a safe environment where you can walk down the street to participate in activity. The physical activity guidelines, say, look, aim for 150 minutes, but there's no recognition of, is that possible? There's no recognition of context, of culture, of financial barriers, those things that actually, there's no point health professionals saying, hey, go and do some exercise to, big parts of the population, that it's a privilege, it's a class privilege. And so how do we break that down?
Yeah, and so I was on doing my research, and I was on your Twitter. I don't know if we still call it. Do you still call it Twitter or X?
Yeah, Twitter, I think.
Yeah, and there was a video that you recently posted. Exercise shouldn't be a privilege when our health is a human right. I think that's a really, really good quote, really impactful. But what you just said there about some of those barriers, the need for a gym membership, social support. So I guess you see a lot of gyms these days with creches, so that mums have the, recreational time to do a bout of exercise. The need for mental health comes into that category as well. And we know that 1 in 5 Australians are dealing with some form of mental illness. I think it's about 2 in 5 for, people between the ages of 18 to 84. So there is a large burden of mental illness in Australia. So why do around 20% of Australians face these mental health challenges?
Yeah, there's these great cartoons that I use in lectures sometimes, which they say, imagine if we spoke about mental health imagine if we spoke about physical health the way we speak about mental health.
Yeah.
And they're cartoons, and one's got a picture of a guy who's just chopped his arm off, and there's blood gushing out, and his friend is saying, look, I understand, but I think you just need to change your mindset and things might be a bit different. Another image is someone with food poisoning, and they're in the bathroom being sick, and their friend says, I just don't think you've even tried today. And I think those cartoons are, for me, they're fantastic, because they point out the hypocrisy, the way we think about mental health or physical health, and the fact that we can't see it means that we have these different ideas around what it means and how it impacts people. But these are these are illnesses the same way that physical health conditions are. Now, it's not to say that all distress is the disorder. You know, there's normal range of human emotions. There's also different points in time we can all feel, you know, better or worse, or have symptoms of, you know, we might feel a bit anxious or we might feel a bit depressed. That doesn't mean we have you know, reach diagnostic criteria for an illness. So I think there's a lot to be done around, you know, mental health literacy, but I know like some of your previous guests are doing fantastic work around breaking down stigma and encouraging people to talk, and, you know, some of Gus Warland's work and that sort of stuff. So I think, you know, there's lots of reasons to be optimistic around how we're changing the conversation about this stuff, and happy World Mental Health Day today as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's reasons for optimism, but I think the physical health link is something that we're still lagging a little bit on and having that discussion.